M. The Media Project.
Hey there, I'm Scott Graves, founder of SM Graves Associates. Business Triage was designed as a response to the challenges made worse by the global health crisis. It was designed to assist small business beyond the pandemic, since most business issues facing us today were already there, simply made worse by COVID-19. SM Graves Associates is pleased to report that the Business Triage program has received state funding for immediate implementation. Along with our partners, including Valley Venture Mentors of Springfield, Massachusetts, we are looking for eligible businesses, regardless of their size and industry, and throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Following a rigorous intake session, eligible businesses will receive individualized mentorship, one-on-one by experienced professionals, peer advisory through our custom advisor tribe from Image Identity Limited, and a customized project designed to maximize your business's turnaround as quickly and efficiently as possible. Potential candidates can contact us and find out more about Business Triage by going to smgravesassociates.com/business-triage. We hope to see you soon, and please take care.
Excuse me, do you mind if I join you? Are you sure you don't mind? You're absolutely sure I'm Mr.
To introduce our guest stars, that's what I'm here to do. So it really makes me happy to introduce to you.
Hello and welcome to the Mental Suppository. I'm Brett Herholtz.
I'm Kevin Barbary.
And I am Andrew Shanley.
And our special guest star today is...
Ramona Pachowski-Peretti.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you
Always
for
a
having us.
pleasure.
And before we get started, we have a new sponsor to the show. This episode is brought to you by the letter M and the law offices of Cookie Lawyer.
Hello, me Cookie Lawyer. You got big case? Me Cookie Lawyer want to represent you? Big company coming after you? Me Cookie Lawyer will take a bite out of them. Cheating spouse? Cookie Lawyer there for you.
Since 1969, near or far, Cookie Lawyer has handled all the big cases.
Cases? Oh, no, 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 no.
Cookie Lawyer, you just ate Donald Trump's tax return.
Sorry.
Call the law offices of Cookie Lawyer toll free today. He's in the yellow pages under C is for Cookie. And that's good enough for me.
I haven't seen you guys in so I haven't seen you, heard you, all of it. So it's nice to be back with all of you.
Thank you,
great,
COVID.
We got into that recording thing and it was so exciting. I couldn't wait to go back. I'm like, oh, and now we're done for a while. Okay.
Yeah.
I know.
I know, it's crazy.
But now we can kind of talk about something we've all kind of shared in our childhood, the Muppet Show. I mean, it was.
Oh, yes.
Yes. I was a huge weekly watcher of the Muppet Show in its
me
original
too.
form.
What are you guys' memories of, the Muppet? Guess first, of course.
That Miss Piggy was a badass.
Yeah.
That she, like, when you think about it, she was really like, she was the annoying, pushy, knows what she wants and demands it, which was such a trope at the time. And she kind of created her own trope that kind of combined Marilyn Monroe and Jane Mansfield with Elizabeth Taylor in Virginia Woolf, and like became this pushy woman that I know she was supposed to be a negative in some ways, but I admired her.
What's funny is actually the character was based on Peggy Lee, the singer.
The singer, okay.
And her name was originally supposed to be Miss Piggy Lee, but I think they stopped because they didn't want to get sued.
Yeah, that's kind of the way it starts. I mean, Miss Piggy was essentially a badass because she was always kung fu fighting, you know. She anybody that got in her way, when you got her mad, she like turned into the Hulk. You know, you don't mess with her.
And I love that she chose she chose Kermit. And he was not like your superhero comic book guy. He was this sensitive, sweet, kind, creative, artistic, and like that was her guy.
Yeah.
He was like the anti-rock star, and yet he was still a rock star to her.
Yeah.
Kermit was definitely your every guy. You know, if there was a Muppet that anybody could really identify with, it was definitely Kermit, because he was definitely your every guy. Kind of, you know, like kind of easygoing, like, hey, let's be all friends, let's do this. Hey guys, come on. The real leader of the pack kind of guy, trying to get everybody to do the right thing.
I could see why Jim eventually chose him to be like the host of the show, because I mean, he was kind of the Muppet. He, aside from Ralph, who was the one he was kind of connected with the most, going back to Sam and Friends. So it was, and you know, going down towards Sesame Street. So it makes sense he would eventually be sort of the host of the show.
Yeah. I mean, like, he did the voice for Kermit too, didn't he?
Oh yeah, he did the voice for Kermit, Ralph,
He did a bunch
Link
of
Hog.
them, right?
Yeah.
Well,
And if you could listen to his interviews, there's a lot of like, you can hear Kermit in his voice.
Exactly.
There's always that one character. If you listen to a voice artist, there's the one character. It's like that seems like that's their true voice, and Kermit was his.
Yeah, that's it right there. Yeah.
You think about it, you're Jimmy Fallon, you're who is it? Jimmy. I don't watch a lot of late night shows, but
I'm not up anymore.
You're James Corden, you're Jimmy Fallon. Like they really are. They're kind of Kermit the Frog type hosts.
Yeah,
they are. Yeah.
They're personable. They can talk with people. They're kind. They're welcoming. People want to come on. They're not going to ask really intense, deep questions, and they're all talented. They get up and they do these skits, and Jimmy Fallon especially gets up and he can sing and he can dance and he does these silly things, and so the guests always feel comfortable. If the host is willing to be ridiculous with you, then what? Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's very Kermit.
Well, I mean, that's the appeal, is that he's just very approachable, you know? And that was the thing. He didn't have to overly impress anybody. He was just, that was who it was. And I think that really was an important part of people growing up, you know, especially like you don't have to be the flashiest, craziest guy in the room to get the most attention or to do something important. You know, you had a lot of crazy characters. You had like Fozzie Bear, you had like Grover, you had like.
Well, Grover was Sesame Street.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's part of the whole situation. They were kind of like half and half, weren't they?
A little bit. I think with Jim Henson, he wanted to break away from Sesame Street. That's why he started doing the Muppet Show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he'd had success with Sesame Street, but he didn't want to be like the children's television guy.
Yeah, but I was
gonna say that's something else I remember about the Muppets is, and I haven't gone back to watch it on Disney Plus, but I remember even when I was young watching it, thinking like, there's jokes I'm not getting. Like yes. I remember my parents watching, and now like being a mother watching certain movies, Rapunzel and Tangled and stuff with my daughter, there were jokes that we got, and I remember now in reflection, I'm like, okay, I felt like there was stuff I picked up on innuendo in the Muppet Show that maybe went over us at the time.
A lot of it was they weren't cute. They were cute, but not in a way that was, you know, like saccharine. They
right.
You know, it's like one of these things. There was a naughtiness to them. You watch the episodes, you know, things were blowing up. Things, you know, they would make these comments that were just like, as a kid, would just go over your head. Very much like Rocky and Bullwinkle. That sort of humor.
You see that a lot in kids' cartoons, especially today. But you did see that in a lot of the old Muppet Show and everything else like that, because they'd always have in jokes that the adults would obviously get, you know, but.
It was one of those programs that I could watch and my parents didn't really cringe watching, because there was a lot of like cartoons out at the time where, you know, it's like I could see my parents like squirming watching because they were just so awful to watch. But the Muppets, it was just something about them that, you know, it just made the whole family laugh. What was your favorite Muppet? What was always the one you really liked?
I think it probably was Kermit, just because I had that attachment to him from before. I did really like the song "The Rainbow Connection," even though the movie wasn't necessarily my favorite. And after that, for some reason, I'm maybe forgetting something. The first one that comes to mind is the guy who always came in with the detonator and blew things up.
Oh, Crazy Harry. That was the thing.
Crazy Harry.
I almost said New Zealand, but that was the wrong one. He was the one with the flying fish.
Yeah,
Mr.
that's right. And I liked I did like Statler and Waldorf, just because it was something that was easy to imitate, and they always started off saying one thing and it would completely twist it into another. Sometimes I'd be like, "Oh, that show was pretty good. Yeah, it was all right. No, it wasn't too bad. Oh, it was kind of lacking. Yeah, you're right. It wasn't too good. Oh, it's terrible. Boo!
Oh, it's horrible."
Yeah.
I think one of the big draws of that show, besides obviously the crazy characters, was the guest stars.
Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
Anybody that has Vincent Price and Alice Cooper with the Muppets,
Those were the ones I remember.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Oh,
If you
I
remember
love
that
Vincent.
one.
Yep.
Vincent Price, King of Horror. I don't care like what decade it is, even modern. There's nobody that has ever really touched cinematic horror like he ever did. And I just remember that because, like, you know, Kermit the Frog and turning into the vampire.
Yes. When he has the fangs and it's like the stupid fabric fangs that come out of his mouth, and then Kermit gets them. It's like, oh, beginner's luck, and he bites Vincent Price in the neck, and you can just tell he's just like eating up the scenery and just enjoying being on the show.
That was just, it was like, oh my gosh, talking about breaking a character right there. It was great.
Vincent, how do you turn into a vampire in those films? Oh, I do it like this.
Yeah.
And I think
for you and I, when we were watching it, our sensibilities were the same. So we were getting it on a different level because you could tell, we know now it wasn't filmed in America, and we know it had all this British sensibility. So the people that they were getting, a lot of kids wouldn't know who they were, but you and I were like, oh, this is a good episode.
They had so many great guest stars on that show.
Well, you were like in if you got on there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's what's so funny is being like, you felt like you knew you'd made it when you were on stage with a bunch of Muppets.
Yeah, forget about Carson.
Like, right?
What was he?
And how do you say no? And no matter how big you were, when they ask you how to the Muppets.
What were your favorite guest stars, Ramona? What was there a guest star that you can remember that you liked from that?
You know what? I don't, I'll be honest, I don't remember a lot of specific guest stars. I loved the movies. I remember, and I did watch it. I know, like, I remember because our age, our generation, of course, was the generation where, like, you shaped an entire evening around a show.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like Sunday night Disney night movie, and I can remember like I think it was Friday nights was Miami Vice, and so Muppet Show was like, it was a night for us. It was, we all sort of sat down.
Saturday night.
Yeah, I don't recall a lot of individual stars, but because I love the Muppets.
Yeah.
I loved, and honestly, with some of the work I've been doing now and sort of retrospect, the Muppets looked more like me. Like there weren't a lot of, like, Asian stars are not really well represented, so there wouldn't have been a lot of.
That's very true.
Yeah.
So I love the characters.
Yeah.
But my memories of the Muppets, it's actually marching band.
Really?
Songs. There were certain songs that we sang on our bus rides. We had these tremendously long bus rides, and we're
Oh, yeah.
fabulous band geeks. And so what else are we going to do but find the most ridiculous songs to sing? So the Manamana song.
Of course.
You mentioned Wendy earlier. We're talking about you lived near Wendy Fulham.
Yeah.
Like we would all be in the bus and like someone would start. So like usually Wendy to us, and it'd be like Manamana do 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 Manamana do do do, and then all of a sudden like the whole bus, like 50 kids. It was so fun.
Oh
like
my
I still
gosh.
do it now sometimes.
Can you imagine with a bus driver in that bus going, look at these kids watching nowadays.
No, there was, yeah, you're right. There were some great musical numbers, and it wasn't always the musical guests.
Yeah.
It was the Muppets themselves, singing old show tunes or old, songs from Tin Pan Alley.
That's great. It was like that was the thing. It was like it was like a vaudeville show every night. And another one I remember was when they had Mark Hamill after Star Wars.
I do remember that.
Yep.
I love that one.
I lost my mind on that one.
I know.
I think at the end of the episode, suddenly, like, Han Solo and like Carrie Fisher showed up.
I don't think they were in that one, but they ended
I
up
don't
breaking.
know.
They ended up breaking into. I think they ended up breaking into It's a Small World or something like that. Which
Yeah,
is
something like
really
that.
ironic since Disney owns the Muppets now.
It's so funny. It's just so funny that it's all kind of come together in this crazy, like convergence that Disney owns everything.
And the weird thing was, if you didn't see them when they were on, once the show was gone, you couldn't go out in the store and rent them or buy them or anything. And I believe the first purchase I ever made involving that show is I had gone to Ireland and I was in some DVD store there, and they had the Best of the Muppet Show collection with like a free box, and it had the Mark Hamill episode and a couple other things.
Oh.
So I brought it back. I had a multi-region DVD player, was able to play that, and I do have a video cassette from back in the day, like you went out and bought in the store, that has the Vincent Price
Yep.
and the Alice Cooper episode on it. But since then, obviously, they've released them all, and now you can get them all over, and just a great show.
Oh, it really is. That was another guest on the Muppets, Peter Sellers.
Yes, Peter Sellers. I believe they had Dom DeLuise.
Yep, he was good.
Marty
Feldman.
Oh God, that was a great one.
Yeah.
Liberace,
that was a good one.
Let's see. Hosts of the original Muppet Show.
And I have to confess, the Brooke Shields one was I actually ended up developing a crush on Brooke Shields from that episode.
I didn't have a crush on Brooke Shields.
It's true. I was 5 years old. It was fine. It was fine at the time. She was older than me.
Yeah,
she still is.
Of course.
But I think it was that because she was doing Alice in Wonderland. It was just such a funny episode. And apparently she built some of the puppets in that episode.
Yeah.
Or helped build some of the puppets.
And they did all kinds of like spoofs. They would do like a James Bond spoof or something like that.
Yeah.
Whatever was cool at the time.
Oh, remember
Monsterpiece Theater with Alice the Cookie.
I loved that as a kid.
I'm sitting here now for the hell of it going through. So I'm like on my phone going through. I'm like, all of a sudden it's like coming back to me.
Yes.
We're talking royalty of not just Hollywood, but stage.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
People that Julie Andrews, Vincent Price, who had mentioned, Harry Belafonte, Liza Minnelli.
Yep.
Like, these are
Broadway elite.
Forget Brad Pitt. Although I
I tried to.
But yeah, Julie Andrews. I do remember Julie Andrews.
Oh, that was a good episode. That was a really good episode.
Host of the very first episode was Juliette Prowse.
Oh, really?
Dancer, singer. Yeah.
I just watched that one.
Some of the more interesting ones from the first season. You had Jim Neighbors.
Oh, actually, my grandfather loved Jim Neighbors. He loved his singing. Actually, my grandfather looked a little like Jim Neighbors.
Oh boy, Harvey Korman was a host in the first.
I
season.
just watched that one. Rock Ridge, splendid.
Now here's somebody who the name I recognize, but I don't know who it is. Do you know who Charles Aznavour is?
I watched the episode, but I'm not familiar with him. No.
Let me see what his deal is. Songwriter and actor, born in Paris, France. He had a #1 song in 1974 called "She." Oh, I wonder if that's the same song Elvis Costello covered.
Okay, that would make sense.
But that's all I see. So let's see, where else we got here? The Rita Moreno was one of the first episodes. Yep. Florence Henderson, Ruth Buzzy, Sandy Duncan.
Well, those are people, I don't know if people would know who they were now.
Absolutely not.
Ruth Buzzy especially, who, I knew because, my parents watched Laugh-In, so, I'd watch the repeats and, she'd be doing the skits with Artie Johnson.
No, Miss Hornsby. So
do you believe in the hereafter?
Then you know what I'm here after.
Yep, they had a lot of great. They had a lot of like.
They had jazz drummer Buddy Rich on one, and it was fantastic because he has a drum battle with Animal. And Buddy Rich was all of 5'4", and apparently he almost got into a knife fight with Frank Sinatra. which I think is hysterical.
The people everybody would know from the show still. Oh, nobody's alive. Twiggy.
Yes.
Oh, that's not a good one.
I think Ruth Buzzy is actually still alive.
Yes, she is.
Her and Goldie Hawn, and I think that might be it.
Don Knotts hosted one.
Oh, I just watched that one because it's like he ended up having a connection with Fozzie. You can
Steve
only
Martin.
That was a good one because it's Steve Martin.
Somebody who just got better and better looking as she has gotten older. Bernadette Peters.
Yes.
Here's a weird one. Rudolph Nureyev hosted.
I just watched that one, and that was because it was the whole thing. They did the whole swine lake, and they had somebody come out with this giant like Miss Piggy head to like dance with him. So
was Mr. T on an episode?
I think that was before.
Oh,
or was he? I don't know.
I feel like he may have been because
Stallone was.
Elton John. I remember that one because my parents used to listen to the Greatest Hits 1 and 2 on 8-track in our car when we go on trips. So I loved Elton John.
Yeah.
And I thought it was wild that he wore the crazy glasses and everything. So I was really into that one.
That episode, that album he did with Leon Russell was really good. I don't know if you heard The Union.
No, I haven't heard that one.
Apparently he was a huge Leon Russell fan, and he was so upset that people had forgotten about Leon Russell's music, and he just decided he wanted to do an album with him, and it's a great album because, I guess that was one of his idols.
Boy, it is sad to scroll through these and see how many of these people, like legendary people, are passed away now.
I know.
Just most of Bob Hope.
Yep.
Peter Sellers. We still have John Cleese.
Yep.
Cloris Leachman.
Oh gosh. Oh, that's
Chris Christopherson hosted with Rita Coolidge, which is interesting.
I've forgotten about that one.
Gilda Radner, Pearl Bailey, Gene Stapleton, Liberace, James Coco. Oh my God.
Oh, I think I was just watching Murder by Death with him as the Poirot parody.
I just watched that recently too. That is such a funny movie.
It really is, and I think people just wouldn't get the jokes. And also, you have Truman Capote in it.
Truman Capote.
Yeah,
it's
and
very similar.
And lots of makeup.
Yes, it's very similar to if you were to watch all three together, a good triple feature would be Murder by Death, The Cheap Detective, and Clue. Because they're all basically the same kind of cast rotating around and same kind of jokes.
I think Clue's available on Pluto TV right now to stream. Or they?
We just watched it. My wife had never seen it, so we watched it recently, and it had.
Madeline Kahn. She was another guest on the show who was in Clue.
Yeah, it was on.
She was my second crush, actually.
Oh, I love Madeline Kahn, and she was another one who got better looking as she got older.
Oh, she did.
When she was on that Cosby revival show where she played their neighbor and their best friend, she looked great, and then she died like a year later.
That shocked me because it's like, you didn't. It was like Jim Henson's passing. It just took you by surprise because it's like you didn't know they were sick, and then suddenly it's like they pass on. It's like, oh, well, that hurts. Yeah. Well, what was even more interesting was the ones Jim Henson wanted to get but never wasn't able to get on the show. Actually, reading the biography that Brian J. Jones came out with, because one of them was he wanted to get the Beatles on the Muppet Show.
Oh, wow.
And it was one of these things at the time. I don't think they could because they were filming in London, and John Lennon was having the problem with customs or so. He was trying to stay in the country, and they were going to kick him out. So I think if he left, it's one of these things that would have had the same thing that happened to Charlie Chaplin would have probably happened to him, and he wouldn't have been able to enter the country again. But Jim Henson wanted the all four Beatles to be on the Muppets, and I think it would have been actually funny.
That would have been an epic show.
Oh,
I think it would have been even funnier if they were on the show, but they never appeared at the same time.
Can you imagine?
Think about this: the Beatles versus Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem.
Yeah,
that would be epic.
Well, they had the whole thing with Buddy Rich and Animal, so imagine Ringo Starr and Animal.
I can see them all dressed up like in Beatles type costumes, running around stage looking for them, but never finding them.
Be like A Hard Day's Night.
Well, I thought John was supposed to be here, but oh well, I'll perform myself.
You know, the funny thing is, I remember watching that recently with my kids, Hard Day's Night, and you know, it's a lot of that tongue-in-cheek, very quick humor that the Beatles had, and that would have been perfect for them. They would have been a
Oh
great.
yeah.
They would have. It's like, "Shh, this is like Hard Day's Night 2, Electric Boogaloo. We'll do it." You know, that would have been great.
But yeah, it just didn't. Unfortunately, it just didn't work
Yeah.
out, and it's a shame because it would have been a lot of fun because there's like certain. I was thinking of it recently. There was like this song John Lennon had on his last album called Cleanup Time, which I thought would have been great played on the Muppet Show.
Oh yeah, because that's the other thing. They would cover songs.
Yeah. Oh, the song covers were always great. I mean, and some of them, Jim Henson was a huge fan of Walt Kelly's Pogo, and actually would sneak in songs that Walt Kelly had written into the show. And he'd also, there was one I recently watched that was Rolf singing Cobblestone Pie, which was from Winnie the Pooh. And I'm just sitting there just kind of grinning and, you know, eyes getting misty watching it. And just
Glad we're talking about this show because I'm looking at these. I'm like, wait, I have really got to go watch these episodes because there's some I didn't remember. Danny Kaye.
I was actually just watching what was the Court Jester recently with Danny Kaye, and that's still a great movie to watch because he's just Danny Kaye, and you know, it's like if there was a parallel universe between him and John Pertwee, and Danny Kaye was playing the Doctor, and John Pertwee was in the Court Jester, so because they look so similar.
Yeah.
Because it's the whole. I remember the whole pellet with the poison shtick they had in the Court Jester, where it's like
The pellet with the poison, the pestle. Is it
the pestle with the vessel? The chalice for the palace has the brew that is true.
One of my favorite singers, Roger Miller, hosted an episode. He actually did a song with your favorites, the Chickens.
I did like the Chickens.
Yeah, you have to let yourself go. You have to be willing to improvise and have fun.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many, especially because we moved away from stage, which I hate. You know how I feel about stage.
Oh, absolutely.
Thinking about Hollywood, I don't know how many of them could do it.
I feel like it has it in the UK, in London. There's still a lot of actors who still do a lot of stage acting, and they do a lot of radio and stuff like that. They don't just do TV or film or whatever. There's still a big, you know, there's still a lot of actors in England who make a great career on stage. But as far as here, no, unless you're doing like musicals or something like that. You really
you've got
don't
like
have
your Nathan Lane's. Has Nathan Lane done it? I feel like Nathan Lane, if he hasn't, he's someone.
Oh
who
yeah, he could do that.
I'm sure. The other thing too, obviously, is when you're dealing with the Muppets, you're dealing with like the opportunity to just do whatever the heck you want to do.
Well, you had John Cleese on the Muppets, and that was a fantastic.
I was just thinking John Cleese.
I mean, honestly, it's like becoming a kid again. All of a sudden, whatever pretense any actors might have had for whatever they were doing is like the chains are off. You can go right ahead and go 100 miles an hour and do whatever the heck you want. It's a kid's show, and you can enjoy it. Now, I think that's where you see a lot of the genuineness from a lot of the guest stars came from.
There was somebody that was on every variety show growing up who I loved to watch. I think they even had a Saturday morning live action show, but they hosted the Muppet Show in season 4, Shields and Yarnell.
I don't remember that one.
You do know who they are, right?
No, I actually don't. I'm sorry.
So they were a married couple who did like all these performance art skits. The most famous one I remember is they would be robots, and that was the first time I ever saw people act like robots, and they did these sketches, but they did pantomime and all kinds of things like that. The very next episode, I must have a mom complex because here's somebody else that I thought got hotter as they got older. Diane Cannon.
Oh gosh, I loved her in The Revenge of the Pink Panther.
She's still alive. She got smoking as she got older, and you know, I think all three of the women that I mentioned that got hotter as they got older played judges on the television show Ally McBeal, and that's where I saw them older.
Really?
I'm like, holy smoke! How does she look so great?
Diane Cannon was a judge on Ally McBeal.
Diane Cannon was a judge.
I forgot about
Bernadette
that.
Peters was.
I remember her on there because she looked great on that.
Yeah.
And
Victor
she was also,
Borga.
Oh, I love Victor Borga. There was another one my whole family, would love watching, Victor Borge television specials on PBS with this like, well, we're going to play right now, and I will sing the songs, and she promises to not touch the piano, and I promise not to touch her, and she would like hit a high note, and he'd fall out of his seat, and then open up the piano seat and put the seat belt on.
He was how I learned all of my punctuation. Do you remember his punctuation
Yes!
gig on Sesame Street?
I remember that.
And he would read a story, and then he'd do all the sound effects for the punctuation.
I'd forgotten about
I
that.
loved that.
Actually, one of the first things they mentioned in the biography on Jim Henson was the bit between Kermit the Frog and the young girl when they're doing the ABCs, and she keeps on saying Cookie Monster. And there's like a point where it's like, I guess Jim was really trying not to laugh, and he just says, "Well, you're just making fun of me, aren't you?" And then they go through the whole thing, and she goes, "Well, next time you won't sing with me. You can do the alphabets by yourself," and just go and just walks off. And then she says to Kermit, "Oh, I love you," and he goes, "Oh, I love you too." And it's like, oh.
Isn't it ironic that you had to revert to being a child to be with the Muppets and to make it work? And yet Disney has repeatedly churned out so many performers who were asked to be adults so quickly.
I know.
And you think about your Spears and your Justin Timberlake and especially the female side. They they demand almost two opposite sides of it.
It's an industry to just, they demand youth, and then the moment you turn 25, you're done. It feels like.
Well, I think especially in this day and age, when you're dealing with child actors, it certainly has changed a lot since the 1970s, because, back then in the 70s up until the 90s, child actors, they would probably get about maybe 5 or 10 years out of them, and then they would be just disposable. And then you'd hear about them on TMZ or something like that later on. But especially just the industry itself in general is changed so much. It's like
they seem to be trying to fix their image of that.
They are.
They took a major hit in the 90s with poor Britney and they seem to be. I mean, I look now at who would do well with this? I think Zendaya.
I agree.
Oh yeah.
I think someone like Zendaya would do. I think Zac Efron would do well with this also. Thinking of well, I mean, they're not terribly young, but thinking of younger actors who could potentially
younger than me.
Chris, I know, right? I think Chris Evans. I think
Tom Holland.
Yeah.
Can you imagine Tom Holland doing Spider-Man?
Oh, I was just thinking Tom Holland.
He kind of is a Muppet.
He wouldn't know what they are. He wouldn't even know what they are.
I know. I can imagine. I can just imagine.
Is that one of those shows my grandparents watched? Oh no, he do it in a British accent. I keep forgetting because he does a really good New York accent.
I can just imagine the Muppets doing a version of Avengers Endgame, that final battle.
Oh my gosh.
Where they're where the guy's like, "Is that everyone?" He's like, "You wanted more?" And all of a sudden all the Muppets come out in different circles.
That would be fantastic.
Swedish Chef comes out, Dr. Teeth comes out.
Animal comes out. Animal dressed.
Animals, Ant-Man. He's
Gonzo and all the chickens come out.
And then Miss Piggy.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, seriously,
It'd be a great episode. And the whole idea of him, actually the whole episode, we were trying to talk about the Beatles, but them trying to explain to him what the Muppets are.
Exactly.
So now that we're talking about it, yes, there are some performers that I could see, Steve Carell. I would love to see Steve Carell.
Yes.
Oh, he'd be perfect.
I would love to see who's the girl from Pitch Perfect.
Oh.
Oh God, what's her name? I know who you're talking about. The blonde,
right? She's super talented.
She's the blonde, right?
Redhead, Anna Kendrick.
Yes.
Anna Kendrick, I think, would be amazing. Trevor Noah, I think, would be hysterical. Thinking across the spectrum of other avenues of people who, because I think Robin Williams did. I think Robin Williams was a guest.
No, I don't think was he? No, I don't think he was.
He was a Muppet though in real life.
Oh gosh.
I'm convinced of that.
God, right?
I mean, Mork.
No, actually, he appeared on Sesame Street. That was.
Oh,
maybe that was it.
There you go.
On Sesame Street, Grover was my favorite Muppet.
Oh, really?
Because he always made me laugh. But there's a sketch. Oh, in Cookie Monster.
Oh,
There's a sketch that still to this day makes me laugh, and it's on YouTube. It's Kermit and Cookie Monster, and it's called "Guess What's in the Box." Do you know this thing?
I don't remember it. You'll have to explain it to me.
Okay, so Cookie Monster walks out, and Kermit has a box. He's like, "Okay, hey Cookie Monster, we're gonna play a game called Guess What's in the Box." If you guess what, he's like, "Is it a cookie?" I'm like, "No. If you guess what's in the box, I will give you a cookie." Okay, what is in the box?
It's a cookie.
No, it's not a cookie. It is round.
It's a cookie.
It's not a cookie, Cookie Monster. And it just keeps. And then finally, Kermit, how he gets. It's not a cookie. Would you stop saying it's a cookie? And he gives him like every clue in the world that it's an orange. He's like, it's a fruit.
Oh, it is fruit cookie.
No, it's not a. It's orange.
Is chocolate chip cookie?
It's so
for the love of Christ, Cookie Monster.
It's an orange. It's an orange. How many more clues do I have to get you? And he's like, "Can I have a cookie now?" You don't get a cookie. You got it wrong. It's so funny.
The one I always liked was there was one. It was like Bert and Ernie. I think Bert and Ernie were in bed, and Bert was asleep. And
I know where you're going with this one.
Bert was Ernie was afraid
Crumbs?
of. Ernie was afraid. He's like, "Oh, if I wake up Bert, Bert will get upset, and I don't want to make my buddy Bert upset." "Oh, I'm sorry, Bert. I'm sorry I made you upset." And then, of course, he makes Bert upset.
Ernie, what are you doing? I was sleeping.
"Oh, I'm sorry, Bert. Don't hit me again."
I just remember the eating the cookies in bed. If you eat cookies in bed, Ernie, you'll get crumbs in the sheets. You get crumbs in the sheets, you get crumbs in your pajamas. You get crumbs in your pajamas, and you'll itch.
"Oh, don't worry about that, Bert. I'll be fine. Oh, I got crumbs in my pajamas. Oh,
I think he actually ate them in Bert's bed, so that Bert was the one who got the crumbs.
Of course.
Oh, because I ate them in your bed.
And of course.
Such a cool seminar project with my kids. Introduce them to the Muppets. Have them choose a modern contemporary actor or actress or politician or performer, something, to go on there and be with them, and then lay the show out. What would the show look like? What would be the premise of it? That would be such a cool.
When it came to Sesame Street, I always loved the Bert and Ernie segments. I think because I had a brother, so I always imagined them being brothers living together, even though they were best friends living together.
What year were you born?
I was born in '76.
That's the year that the Muppet Show debuted.
That's correct. I was actually
That's probably why you enjoyed it, because once you were in the prime of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
you started off with some adultish shows there. You're probably watching Monty Python's Flying Circus on PBS, and then tuning over to the Muppet Show.
Well, actually, it's funny because I actually ended up becoming a fan of Monty Python through osmosis, because my bedroom was right next to my parents, and my dad would watch Monty Python in the next room at probably 11 o'clock on PBS, and I would actually hear the episodes in my dreams, and I'd be talking about them the next day, and they'd be like, "How the heck did he hear about this?" And then they're like, "Oh, he probably heard it in his sleep." So
so many. But the show was just, how long was that show on for?
It was on from 76 till 80, 81.
Yeah.
So, and it was very much like Jim Henson. I mean, he did the show and then he wanted to kind of move on.
And then he kind of walked away.
Yeah. It was one of these shows that he fought so hard to get it on television, but then he sort of, I don't want to say he became trapped by it, but he was one of these people who wanted to do other things, like the Dark Crystal, like Labyrinth, like the Storyteller. He just wanted to keep on creating. And I mean, then he sort of became the guy who did the Muppets.
Well, just like any artist.
Yeah.
I mean, Jim Henson probably wanted to expand his ability to do different things and kind of prove himself in the Hollywood vein, because once you've done something for long enough, you probably want to leave and do something better. And I think that this is a good opportunity for us to kind of talk about the movies in general, because I think the movies really kind of pushed the visual effects and made the Muppets real.
I did go see the movies. I wasn't as big a fan of the movies as the television show. The first movie I thought was okay.
I remember when I saw the Muppet movie, that whole scene where Kermit's riding a bike.
Yes.
You're seeing a physical fuck on a bike, and How the heck did they do that? That
Boy, if
made
he
it
got me,
real.
I would have been gone with a Schwinn.
It says John Landis and Tim Burton were in the Muppet movie.
Really? I don't remember that.
Is that? I don't either. I'm gonna look. I'm gonna see who they played. Maybe Burton was a like pre-production person. On
Right.
it. Well, I don't see where they were a character, but they were listed.
Just during the Muppet movie, there was the whole scene where Kermit was trying to talk to Doc Hopper and just get him to change his ways and be good, and I guess that Jim really wanted the character to sort of make a about face and turn around, and I guess Frank Oz's response to that was bullshit.
Huh.
And they ended up not, so that's why he ended up being unrepentant, because Frank Oz was like, yeah, that's people aren't like that, that's never going to happen.
Okay. So I don't remember the plot of the Muppet movie enough
the
to.
plot was this kind of Boss Hogg sort of character. Doc Hopper was trying to make Kermit the spokesperson for his Frog Legs restaurant, which of course is going to be really wonderful for Kermit.
Right.
Hopper, what the fuck's the matter with you?
Who played Doc Hopper?
I don't remember the actor. I'd have to look that up
All
at
right,
some
hang
point.
on
but-
now. I'm
Okay.
gonna look this up right now. We gotta solve. This is gonna bug me if I don't know, because I went to see the Muppet movie, the original Muppet movie, with my church youth group.
Oh, yep.
So I was one of those people who went to church. That's where all my friends outside of school were.
Yep.
And let's see. Here we go. The Muppet movie, 1979.
I know.
Oh my God. Okay, it was. His name was Doc Hopper?
Yeah,
Charles
Doc Hopper.
Durning.
Oh, it was Charles Durning. Name I know, but I didn't really, put the two together when watching the movie. But
Charles Durning was in it. Dom DeLuise.
Yep.
Mel Brooks.
oh yeah, he plays the scientist who tries to scramble Kermit's brain. Orson Welles was in it.
Do you remember who the ice cream vendor was? With no cheating.
Oh, Milton Berle, was it? No.
No, I'll give you a hint. Boy, I tell you that. Wait, hold on. Boy,
Bob
I
Hope.
tell you that that Joe Biden, he's so dumb. He saw a sign that says wet floor, and he did. Hey, we'll be
Bob-
right back with this message from Texaco.
Bob Hope.
Bob Hope.
Bob Hope.
James Coburn was in it.
Oh, he was also in an episode of the Muppet Show.
Wow. Austin Pendleton was in it, a great character actor, if you know who he is. Elliot Gould.
Steve Martin, I think,
wow.
had a scene in it. He played like a really
Yes.
perturbed waiter. Do you want to smell
Insolent
the
waiter.
Yeah. Do you want to smell the bottle cap?
A lot of Hensons were in it. Brian Henson, John Henson, Jane Henson. That's and of course Orson Welles. Was in
Yes. The first
Yeah.
Muppet movie had Peter Falk talking to Kermit, who's heartbroken, and he's giving them this story of, like he knows it. And I forget the story, and Kermit's like, everything you told me is wrong, and has nothing to do with what I'm going through.
Columbo himself.
Yeah. And then I think
Just one more thing. Just one more thing.
I think he asked for money or something like that. Oh, get the hell out of here.
Oh my God, that was such a great.
And that was actually a movie when it was first shown in the theaters. When Jim Henson saw it with his family, when they played Rainbow Connection, his youngest son John actually burst into tears while watching it.
Yeah.
And he just kind of put his hand, and Jim just kind of put his hand on John's shoulder and just kind of said, just kind of understood. It was just kind of a very touching moment.
Richard Pryor.
Oh, that's right, because he sells Gonzo the balloons and he goes flying off. Gonzo
There
was
you
always
go.
my favorite when I was a kid, but as I got older, it was always Kermit and Rolf was the ones I kind of gravitated towards. Because I was just watching one with Rolf recently doing the "You and Me and George" was the song, and it was, if you haven't heard it, it's hysterical.
I think I heard it on, believe it or not, there's a station on Sirius called Cinemagic where they play all movie music or
Yeah.
scores, and they played it one day, and I'm like, what the hell is this? And I looked, and it was that. They even played the song that Dr. Teeth does with Rolf about. Wait, it's the one about women.
Oh, that was the one he did with Kermit. You can't
That was
live
Kermit,
with them.
Kermit
You can't
about-
live without them.
Right.
There's something
Don't get-
irresistible about them.
And the other funny part of that song is just like, I just walk home by myself and I have a beer and I don't worry about it. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
There was another one I did not like at all, but there was a third one I thought was great. Which one was John Cleese in? Muppets Take Manhattan?
The Great Muppet Caper.
Okay.
That was the
that
second
one I
one.
liked. Okay.
Yeah.
I just remember when I was a kid and like going to the theater and we saw like, you know, the second movie, which is like the Great Muppet Caper.
That was my favorite.
Oh my God. That movie is, I still quote it to this day to people, and people are like, what is he saying? Guess we're having steering wheel souffle again tonight. Again?
That would be such a great movie to use with the Odyssey. Like
Oh,
when
yeah.
I teach the Odyssey, he's so Odyssean. It's such an it's truly an epic hero story.
It is.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, one of the things about it, it's just there's so many jokes in that movie. You watch it today, and I remember watching the Muppet movies recently. When we got Disney Plus, we watched the Muppet movies with the kids. And Grave at Muppet Caper is still one of my favorites of all time, just because of all the jokes that you don't get. I remember watching, because they have Beauregard driving a checker cab in London.
Yes, I forgot about that.
A checker cab that you would only see in New York, of all places.
Didn't he have the joke, oh, I got my license by correspondence course?
And he's like, let me look where I'm going to go. Like, closes
I have to
his
go
eyes.
back. I have to go back and watch them again, guys. You're
Sorry.
adding to this. No. I'm glad. Actually, I want you to read the biography also.
And you know the other thing
it's
too
great.
is,
You'll love it.
you'll love that movie. And the one thing about that especially the Muppet Caper, is they have like one of the best actresses in cinema at the time, who was English, Diana Rigg.
Oh, I love Diana Rigg.
She plays Lady Holiday.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you know, Diana Rigg, she had worked on the Avengers. She was a big TV personality. She had done films and everything else. She was a Bond girl.
I think at the same time she had done the Poirot film with Peter Ustinov, Evil Under the Sun, which had she had Dame Maggie Smith in.
Yeah, and of course,
who can do no wrong to me.
You have this huge caliber of actress. She's doing a Muppet movie.
Yeah. With Charles Grodin as her brother, her scrupulous brother, playing basically Charles Grodin.
Charles Grodin, of all people, plays her brother. He's like the worst English accent ever. He's like straight up American.
Well, I think that was like a play on the old movies where, you know, the character was supposed to be English, but they don't really even try an English accent. Long before Kevin Costner.
Oh, yeah, Kevin Costner as Robin Hood. Right. But yeah, so that movie, oh my gosh, so much in that movie.
I really liked Muppets from Space, though.
Oh, really?
I thought that was very funny, the whole Gonzo concept. And
right.
And then the reincarnation movies they did that Jason Segel helped put together, I really thought those were great.
I haven't actually watched those ones, but I think I'm going to have to sit down and watch them.
I'm looking her up, and all the memories are coming back right now.
They're all just flooding back. It's kind of like, you know, you're having flashbacks.
Did you ever see The Devil Wears Prada?
No, I haven't seen that one.
I've seen The Devil Wears Prada.
She's like Miranda before Miranda existed.
Yes, absolutely. and like Miss Piggy wants to work with her.
Yes.
Do you remember that? Like, she's like, you know, here's my portfolio, and like, you know, and she's showing us the same pose in every photo.
Actually, my favorite scene in that movie was they had their like little fight where he's like, "Oh, it's the fake the fake Lady Holiday," and they start like arguing. Is like, and they break characters like, "Piggy, you're hamming it up. You're hamming it up," and they just start arguing in front of the camera. And then, of course, Piggy starts crying, and Kermit just kind of comforts her, and they go into the next scene.
Oh my gosh. One of my favorite scenes in that movie was like when they were going to have the big thing where they're going to stop the bad guys, and they're going to go and break into the museum, and they're all preparing and they're getting all their stuff together, and they're like, you know, whoopee cushion, lost it. You know,
I forgot about that.
Rubber chicken. All right, real chicken, you know?
Oh.
And like, you know, then they get there, and like they have to bribe their way into the guards. And so Fozzie and Kermit are like trying to deliver a pizza. He goes, "Hey, we're the pizza twins. We get the pizza for you."
That's right. That was the plot. They were supposed to. Everybody thought they were twins.
And the guard's like, "But I don't like pepperoni."
Did you ever get a chance? I don't know if it's still there, but did you ever get to do the Muppets interactive 3D like at Disney MGM Studios?
No, I've actually never been to. The last time I went to Walt Disney World, they were building Epcot Center.
Oh God, okay.
It went as a family trip in 1981.
Oh,
so, no,
well, if it's still there, they had an excellent. You would go into a theater, and it was the Muppet Show theater. So you were sitting in the red seats in the audience, and it was a real thing. And they had a stage, and some of the stuff would be on a screen, and it would have stuff happen to your seat. But then they actually had things in the audience, like at some points the balcony would light up, and there'd be Statler and Waldorf, and they'd be making comments. And I don't remember what was the name of the really big. A person wearing a suit monster with the long nose that had lots of hair. Sweetums was there, and he would chase the guy with the bomb, I think, around the audience while you guys were sitting and watching it. But really well done, and I don't know if it's still there. I guess it would be because MGM and the Muppets Disney and the Muppets are still together.
I'm wondering now, like, would this work? Because I feel like, first of all, this show could, to a certain extent, from a PR perspective, make or break an actor in terms of their genuineness.
Well, another thing too is it would also help broaden their appeal.
It would, but you can't fake a show like this, right?
No,
like
I
think that's why Julie Andrews was so memorable. Rita Moreno, Vincent, like they were really. I think Christopher Plummer did it also.
Oh, I think so too. Yeah.
Well, they had Raquel Welch and Miss Piggy singing "I Am Woman" on it.
Yes,
which is fantastic. It was like the way they did the way Jim did everything, and I think that was another thing because it's like you watch something, the puppets on like Mr. Rogers with their like frozen faces, and then you see like the Muppets with like they had the characters had personality even though they were felt, and then
especially Kermit because he could use his hand and make him do all those faces.
And I was reading in the biography I was reading, they used to do what they did was they would also make the characters like jump at the screen more when they were talking, so it just gave them more animation.
Yeah,
it's
and they had the arm thing.
Yeah. Or they had Muppets like the Swedish Chef, which had the actual hands.
Real hands.
Which I kind of understand because it's like he's grabbing a lot of like stuff that you wouldn't want to get like the puppet dirty.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch that again.
I do too, because I'm excited to watch it because I feel like it's one of the movies that I could watch. And my daughter's older now, so it wouldn't be such a big deal. But there's movies from our youth that we've gone back to watch, and you're like, "It's great, you've got to watch this." And you get 10 minutes into it, and you go, "Oh, I forgot about that scene. Well, let's not watch this anymore." Or, "Oh, did they really just say that? Did they use that word?" And there's like so many cringe factors.
Yeah.
I remember having that problem when I showed my daughter's Short Circuit. And like,
I didn't do that one yet. I did Adventures in Babysitting.
Oh no.
Yeah, so bad. Such a bad idea.
PG really meant PG back then.
Yes. We've had some shows that we watch and we like 16 Candles.
Yep.
We watch it and we have this conversation. So, and think about when you watch it with them and what kind of, because you don't want to. Well, I'm an English teacher, so I guess I've ruined a lot of things for her.
Oh, that's okay.
Just in literature. But yeah, having it still be entertainment, but looking at the context of when it was made, but then also discussing like how this helps shape some of the narratives and the stereotypes. Because I know even now, some of the Muppet shows they're not showing, right?
No, they're not.
There's a couple of them. I think it's copyright issues. One of them, I think one of the guests. It turns out he was a
pedophile.
He was a creep. Yeah, he was a pedophile and a creep. And I think the Brooke Shields one it was a copyright issue because of Wizard of Oz.
Oh, okay.
So I think they couldn't show that one, but I think some of them, it was some of these things that it's like copyright issues on certain songs.
A lot of the music can really make a lot of shows like that have like video elements or song elements. They They really do guard, especially nowadays with the way that content ID is,
Yeah.
and they'll just claim everything and everything like that stuff.
And I mean,
I was gonna say that's interesting that they can show so many
Yeah.
because there's this huge debate going on all the time. The why are you so PC? The idea that humor can be humor without it being cruel.
This is kind of related to the animation conversation we had, which is that as we got older, the cartoons that we got interested in had to transition as well. So that's when they started making cartoons that appealed to us. Same thing with the Muppet Show, because when you think about it, you start off on Sesame Street. They took a couple of those, really Kermit mainly, and transitioned that over to another show where we could continue watching it, and they brought that generation of nostalgia into the other.
It's funny because Rolf started off on Sesame Street too. He had maybe a few episodes, but it was one of these things. He kind of ended up being sort of sidelined, and Kermit kind of became the star of Sesame Street.
Yeah.
But that was a show, Jim Henson. I ended up, I don't know if you read it, the biography. I actually have it right here that Brian J. Jones put out a few years ago about Jim Henson. It was really good. And it was really informative. And it's just like, it doesn't paint the picture of somebody who was perfect, but it was somebody who just loved what he did. And he had this, he fell into puppeteering. It wasn't something he originally wanted to do. It's just something that sort of he did out of necessity.
Well, Disney in general, because they own, let's just be honest, they own everything. Has been
the other half is owned by Amazon.
Pretty much. But Disney in general obviously has been very protective lately of their image, mainly because of a lot of the product that they've made. You take a look at Dumbo, for example.
Dumbo was a crap show.
I mean, that's got a lot of it. That's got a lot of certain things about African Americans that certainly existed of the time, but obviously now.
What do you mean? The character that was named Jim Crow, who was a crow? Is that what you're talking about, Andrew?
Yeah, a little bit of that. I'm trying to be subtle here.
I know.
And then of course
I do the earlier fairy tales with my kid, with my women's class, and they go back. We watch Sleeping Beauty and Snow White. My kids watch Snow White, and they're looking at me going, "Who shows this to their child?"
I remember as a kid going into the theater, and you know how like Disney would re-release like movies in theaters every once in a while?
Right.
I remember as a kid going to see Song of the South in the theater.
Oh.
Okay.
Right up there with Brer Rabbit.
I mean, I'm just a kid singing zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay-da-da.
Brer Rabbit is from Song of the South, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Brer Rabbit, Tar Baby. Oh, gosh.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
not PC anymore. No.
Nope.
It's just not right, period.
Sadly, not sadly, but I never actually really cared for Disney cartoons, to be honest with you. I always kind of liked Looney Tunes better.
I liked Looney Tunes, and I had these alternate, and I don't know where I found them, but for example, I got into anime.
Oh, yep.
There was this old anime film called The Ringing Bell.
Oh, I'm not familiar with that one.
I show it to my kids. It's this lamb. It's a lamb who his mother is murdered by a wolf, and he ends up like going out to find the wolf to kill him, and he ends up turning him into a ram, and then he comes full circle to come back to kill the sheep again with his new mentor. And it's so dark, and it just spins the idea of what a cartoon should be. But none of my kids are really into anime now. Like anime has become huge.
Kind of sounds like what Hayao Miyazaki did with a lot of his films.
My daughter's obviously big into anime as well, and she likes the manga and that sort of stuff.
Yep.
And, it's funny because like when we were kids growing up, and obviously this is a little off track, but talking about like the influence that things like Watership Down, which
God.
Rats of Nim.
Secret of Nim, which is another one.
I can't tell you how many nightmares Watership Down gave me.
I mean, that was just the 1980s were filled with a lot of movies that were for kids, that were depicted kids. That was a lot of nightmare fuel, and obviously.
Oh, it's a cartoon with bunnies. I'm gonna like this. I'm crying in my room.
Hey, there's a cute little movie called.
Make it anime or animate it, and it's good to go. It's fine.
Oh yeah.
If it was a cartoon, it was for kids, and I think that a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's good for kids. Watch that," and they'll put the VHS on play, and they'll go and do whatever.
And play their poker and
they'll go, "Hey, we're gonna go do our poker night."
They go throw darts. They get drunk and throw darts.
Why is Timmy
lawn
screaming
darts?
in the other room? but
Thanks
like
to the psychiatrist, Dad. Well, that was the last thing Jim Henson was trying to work out, was a deal with Disney, and I think a lot of I kind of wonder if a lot of that was to do so, he'd have like that retirement, and also he could, somebody else would be doing the Muppets, but he could move on to doing the other projects, because it seemed like he was a guy that once he had kind of been successful at one thing, he wanted to kind of move on to another thing.
Like when you watch a movie, watch something like The Dark Crystal, which was again from Jim Henson.
I think we saw that in the theater, and the beings they became at the end terrified me as a kid, and I don't know why. I think it was just the way they were designed with like the big heads, but I just remember being scared of them as a kid. But I mean, still being so fascinated by the film and the fact that he took, he basically created a film that was nothing but puppets. I mean, those were films that were never really appreciated when they came out. And you could tell it kind of, and it's like, I felt kind of bad, like watching, there was a documentary before the new Dark Crystal came out, and him just talk about how it was like the most fun and the most satisfying project he ever did. And he's just like, oh, and because how much people kind of like just didn't get that film when it first came out. And from what I read about it, he really didn't have an actual script. It was originally supposed to all be, it was all supposed to be silent, and they were all going to be talking like in these like very Tolkien sounding languages.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody was actually going to be speaking English, and no.
So it was going to be like subtitle or something.
No subtitles. It was just all going to be visual. And
It
I guess
just gave me nightmares all over again, just thinking about that.
Sorry about that.
I remember the spider creatures. That was scary. That was like holy crap. And
Brian Froud's designs for those movies were so beautiful. They were just such. I mean, if you look at the original illustrations for it, I can see why Jim Henson wanted to work with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just I just thought it was just such a beautiful film, and it still is. I actually ended up watching it not too long ago, and just the whole story. It's a simple story and simple dialogue, but sometimes that's all you need.
Well, the thing about that film was also that movie had more than just cool effects. It had, and I think this is the greatest special effect any movie can have, is the best special effect is a good set of characters that you can identify with and you can latch onto. See?
I don't think he'd be doing like a second Labyrinth or a new Dark Crystal. He'd probably be doing something new now.
True. And I mean, he had the Fraggle Rock. He had the Storyteller.
The Storyteller, yeah.
Which started off with John Hurt, and then it switched to somebody else. I forget who, Michael Gambon?
Was
somebody
it?
like that?
Really?
Yeah, I know it went from, they had like 3 different incarnations of the Storyteller, and John Hurt, and then somebody else, all British actors.
Of course.
And the Witches, didn't he do all the
That's
puppet
right.
work for the Witches?
Actually, I ended up reading something in the biography. Apparently, he really pissed off Roald Dahl because he changed the ending, and Roald Dahl was just completely bullshit with the way he changed the ending.
Oh,
and
I didn't realize he was still alive when that movie came out.
I guess he was, and he was just still a bitter old sod. He was somebody who was just like a miserable individual, and I guess Jim Henson just at least at that point, rubbed him the wrong way, and I guess he just kind of coaxed him, saying, well, this is just going to be, this is just the way this movie sort of, this direction we're going, and just tried to kind of ease everything over. But for the stories I've heard about Roald Dahl, he was not a nice individual.
Interesting. Yeah, there's a movie out about him now called, I forget the name of it, but Hugh Bonneville plays Roald Dahl.
Oh,
it's
really?
About his relationship with his family and how he was one thing to the public with all his creations, but at home, you gotta have something going on up here to create all the stuff that he did. I mean,
they were books that really didn't care for children very much, because you look at like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and a lot of nasty things happened to the kids at the end. A lot of the kids who got it kind of deserved it, but
yes, except Charlie Bucket.
Except Charlie Bucket. So.
But one of the things about movies in general lately, it's just like they go with the cookie cutter plot and they just like throw something together. But when our generation had special effects, it wasn't just about the cool spaceships, the huge explosions. It was about the fact that they had to have good writing, they had to have good direction to overcome the limitations of those effects, so that those effects would look good in the end when they made them. And especially with the Dark Crystal.
Well, they talk about practical effects.
It was
that
such a
movie
convergence.
is a practical effect.
It was so much of a convergence of the two.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't get that. I mean, the 80s were really a great time where special effects and good story and characters and great directors really combined together to make a unique product that was so iconic that people would be like, wow, I want to see more of this. We need to make a trilogy or something like that. But, you know.
Well, there was a great scene in that. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say there were actual special effects. And I'm all for, I love the Marvel movies, I love, but everything's sort of created versus, and I do happen to live down the road from UConn. UConn is not far from us, which has an amazing puppetry program.
Oh.
And so thinking about and you had mentioned earlier, like Kermit on the bike and going back to the Dark Crystal,
Yes.
and thinking about Labyrinth and even Legend, the makeup, or Dark One that was on that, but the makeup, the artistry, the skill, the craftsmanship to actually build. I can't remember the name of the character from the Neverending Story, but these massive Muppets and these massive machines that
the Rockbiter.
Life. There was the Rockbiter, but the dragon.
You're talking about the thing that flew in the air.
Yeah.
Oh, Falkor.
But he does have the scenes where he's up close with him, and sort of we see his paws moving, and we see, like, I always remember that.
Yep.
And so thinking about the carpentry, this melding of so many different professions that had to come together. We usually think of carpentry's over here, and this person makes dolls, and this person does makeup, and they all of a sudden they had to merge and work together in this way versus just punching it into a computer, which again, I know there's talent there. I know coding requires.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And to be an actor on that set, like from an actor perspective, to be an actor on set and actually be interacting with this enormous Muppet.
Exactly.
Actually, the voice of Skeletor did the voice of Falkor in that movie.
I feel like I knew that. I feel like that was like a trivia tidbit.
Yeah.
You may have been the one who told me that.
Oh,
little
probably.
IMDb, a little IMDb trivia for you tonight.
But yeah, I mean, that's the thing about voice actors too. I mean, they you're a working voice actor. You know.
Well, I remember I just remember Neverending, like especially Labyrinth. There was so many different types of puppetry put into play. There was the whole scene where she falls through the hands, and all the hands make faces. And
yes.
They're all interacting with
yes.
her. And then you had
that was very Womanshunts, or how is it pronounced? There was that group that did like all this like very pseudo intellectual puppetry.
Yeah.
It was very much like that, but who was a guest on the Muppet Show? But
I know they did a lot of children's stuff in the 80s.
Yeah.
They were on a lot of like Sesame Street. They did stuff.
I'm probably mispronouncing it, but it was like they were very. It was very like high theater sort of puppetry and performance pieces. But it's like when you mentioned the thing with like the hands, making out the faces. That was the first thing I thought of. But yeah, you're right. He's taking all these things, and it was actually written by Monty Python's Terry Jones, who I think he originally wrote the stories. As I don't know if he wrote it for that or wrote them as bedtime stories. There was something he wrote originally as bedtime stories that he told his kids that he eventually turned into movies. But he helped co-write Labyrinth, and there's like a little bits of his thumbprint in the movie where his dialogue is very Python-esque.
Jennifer Connelly was in that.
And of course, you can't forget about David Bowie.
Oh, David Bowie.
I can forget David Bowie.
You can't forget David Bowie's performance in that film.
And there's another one who worked very well with puppets. But then again, I think he actually started out trying to perform. Started out his career being a mime as well. So he worked as a mime for a while. So
he spent a lot of time with Mick Jagger. So
yes,
puppets, Muppets, Mick Jagger.
Mick Jagger, Keith Richards. They were kind of Muppets anyways.
It was really funny because when we watched that film, this is really funny. My younger daughter Paige, she was dressed up in pajamas that were exactly like the kid Toby, the little baby, And so like she's like in those pajamas, and we're just like it's like being crazy. And I'm like, I got a movie for you to watch. Let's watch Labyrinth.
Okay, you have to do Legend next then.
Oh God, Legend's gonna be on. That's on the list.
I'm still trying to figure out how to put that costume together. Like Lily,
gosh.
Lily has captured me forever.
Oh my gosh.
And it was Tim Curry, I think.
Oh gosh.
Tim Curry played
Yes.
the demon.
Apparently,
he played the devil in that.
Apparently, there's a point he got so frustrated with the makeup not being able to take it off. He ripped it. He ripped it off and ended up really like scalding himself.
I'll
like,
bet.
taking up, yeah, and it's like, yeah, you
Because
won't
it's
do
the
that again.
adhesives. The adhesives for that are they're bad. They're
Exactly.
bad with the skin.
I mean, you know, when you talk again, we're going back to the 80s. We're talking about non-CGI. We're not talking about wearing like a green suit with little discs and balls all over it for a computer programmer. When you had to take a character like that on and be creating
You
a
took it on.
performance like that, you know, because his horns were like, what were they, 3 or 4 feet out of his
They were
head?
massive. He gave me nightmares. It has stayed with me forever.
Tim Curry outside of makeup gives me nightmares, but I like him.
There's some truth to
I
that.
mean,
Yeah.
his career, he's a great actor. And,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, he's accomplished so much in his career, so many things that he's done. I mean, it's amazing. But when
He's
you
one
see,
of those actors that when his time comes,
oh,
we'll look back on his body of work and it was kind of like Vincent Price, like these performers that you'll just look back and go, oh my gosh, how did I not realize? Or you go, oh, I forgot they were in that. Oh, I forgot they were in that.
Oh yeah.
yep.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm listening. And the Muppets.
Oh, go on.
Well, I was just gonna say he was one of the first people that when they passed away, I genuinely got teary-eyed in the car. I remember exactly.
I did too.
I was in my car, and I believe it was the same day that Sammy Davis Jr. died.
That's right.
So they're like, Sammy Davis Jr. died, and then they mentioned Jim Henson. I'm like, oh, Jim Henson, and they played like some clips of him and talked about his history and all that.
Yeah.
And that was tough. And then
that
it
was a
also
bolt out of the blue.
Yeah. And I don't know if you remember in the early days of Saturday Night Live, Jim Henson did some Muppet sketches on there.
That's right.
With the aliens and stuff.
Yeah. Do you remember the name of what it was? Because it's slipping me at the moment.
Yeah, I don't
But
remember.
Apparently,
I've
the
seen
Saturday
it,
Night
but I
Live
don't recall.
writers hated writing for that, and I think John Belushi actually referred to it as the Mucking Fuppets.
The Mucking Fuppets.
Because they just, for whatever reason, it just wasn't the right fit at the right time, and it was a show that Jim Henson really fought to get on the air. And I mean, I don't know if you ever saw it on YouTube, but there was like, I think they posted like his pitch to like ABC or NBC. It was one of the networks he was trying to post, pitch it to, and it's just like this manic post of a guy saying, it's like, get the Muppet Show and everybody will be rich and we'll all be rich and Jim will be rich and the executives will be rich and then we'll get full of ourselves and we'll become too unbearable and this, and then it just keeps going and going and going. And finally at the end of it, Kermit comes and goes, what the hell was that?
They had I'm trying to think how old my kids were. Well, my son's going to be 15 next week. So
oh, wow.
He's probably like 5 or 6. We went to Jim Henson's wife brought an exhibit to somewhere in Massachusetts. I forget where it was. I have photos from it on my Facebook page. And we went and they had everything like the original Kermit. They had Ernie and Bert, all these other things on display there. And that was really cool. A lot of stuff from the Muppet Show was there.
I wish I could have seen it. I remember friends telling me about that. I think my wife might have gone to that at some point or seen that. I might be misremembering, but I mean, honestly, it was just one of those shows, and the humor was just so silly, and so it was just like you'd fall on the floor over the stupidest things. I mean, most of the jokes most of the famous jokes weren't the ones that always got me. It was the stuff like the chickens playing piano. I don't know if you ever saw that one. Just the ones that just like it starts off with the one chicken like poking the notes with the beak, and then the other ones join in, and it was one of those skits that actually would just make my dad roll around on the floor laughing, just because it was just so simple and it was just so silly.
Yeah, and I enjoyed the they always had the The little ballroom dance where they all told the one-liner jokes like I'm
It was
laughing.
yes, that's exactly what I was thinking of, and I can't, they do the 1, 2, 3 dip at one point, but it would always be like these really goofy jokes, and of course I'm just watching them again. They're still hysterical.
And do you remember they had the ongoing skit that was Wayne and Wanda, the two people who sang a musical number, and something awful would happen at the end, like it would fall over on them or something.
And it was always Sam the Eagle announcing. It was like, and they're good Christian people, and here comes Wayne and Wanda. And it's like, they'd say something like, I forget what song they'd sing, and it's like maybe singing about the moon, and the moon would fall out of the sky on their head or something.
They hit him on the head. Sam the Eagle was like the Muppet Show version of the Colonel from Monty Python's Flying
Yes.
Circus. Nope, too silly.
Yeah.
Nope.
Stop it. Which is funny because they had besides John Cleese, they had all these interesting guests that I would get to know later on and get to really appreciate. Like they had Spike Milligan on one of the episodes of the Muppet Show. Yep. And it was just it fits Spike Milligan, who was just completely insane. And they'd have Sir Peter Ustinov.
Yeah, Shirley Bassey was on one.
Yes, that's right.
I'm trying to think who else they had. Just a lot of unusual people that more only adults would know.
Yeah, people who were famous at the time, but people might not know now, but really should get to know.
Brilliant, man.
Getting back to Labyrinth, when we were mentioning Bowie, I thought about the musical number at the end when he's standing at the edge looking at the Jennifer Connelly's character, and he just sort of flips over the side.
Yeah, that's surrealistic.
Yeah, that whole Escher scene. I just thought of that for some.
That was brilliant.
Yeah.
And
and then passes right through her. Just all those sort of those visual effects that they probably had to work really hard to do.
The things with the balls that he did.
Yes.
That actually was a juggler in presence doing it in front of him, so it would look like it was actually his hands.
Oh wow.
So that he couldn't do that. They had a juggler actually, and they had to do a couple of things, but the stuff with him doing this, they actually had a juggler underneath, doing that. It was pretty. But that's a level of commitment you do in these types of movies.
What's funny is I think because we have this whole program we're starting now with, it's called a mastery program where kids have to create something of their own sort of liking. But I think this would be such an interesting class to create, where the kids could go back and watch some classic old films and vintage films that had genuine special, everything from your original Godzillas in black and white, and then moving through to your ETs and your Muppets, and ask them to formulate the story, ask them to create their own working, go back to how sound effects are traditionally done with
oh gosh
hands and because I used to do a thing where my kids would do Macbeth and they had to do the sound score underneath. Mm-hmm. So they had to what would hoofs sound like and what would gravel sound like.
Oh gosh, Shakespeare.
I remember.
That's cool.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I think kids would like it. They may not love to watch the old films because they're so, but I think if they saw the art behind it and were asked to create it.
Yeah.
Well, one of the programs, one of the things I had to do in college, because I have 2 degrees in television film production, is that one of the things we had to do was we had to pick a scene and recreate that scene shot for shot. And I remember working on and this is so long ago. I remember working on one where we did a recreation of the scene for Indiana Jones when he grabs the idol and he switches the thing. And we actually used a Mr. Potato Head as the idol. So we had to recreate those shots of the floor and the walls and get all the stuff that we, just basically recreate that and give that the same music and everything else to that. Obviously we couldn't use it on our reels, but that was kind of, that's a good example of something to put in. But yeah.
I love that. Speaking of film, your special guest is going to go, it's movie night at my house.
Oh, yes. Oh.
So I'm going to bow out. We may be changing movies now. Actually, we're thinking about watching Beverly Hills Cop tonight.
Oh, that's a good film.
That's a good film.
So I feel like I should pre-watch it.
Muppet Caper, Beverly Hills Cop. Would it be better if Beverly Hills Cop had Muppets in it?
It could. Did speaking of which, did Eddie Murphy ever do the Muppet Show?
I don't think he ever did a Muppet Show.
Back in the 80s, he was too R-rated.
He was too R-rated.
Yeah.
He was like in the midst of doing like that.
He was doing Raw.
Yeah, he was doing
Yep,
Raw. He had
that's
all
right.
that stand-up comedy. He was doing Beverly Hills Cop. He did
That's
Beverly
right.
Hills Cop too. He was
And we
definitely,
really separated. We really like so definitively separated those things.
yeah, he wouldn't have done that back then. Now he would have. Now he would, but not back then. No. But that's a great movie.
It is a good movie.
He'd be
Die Hard with
fantastic on it.
Muppets. I can just imagine Die Hard with Muppets. That would be hilarious. If they
That
could
could,
replace,
be, that could be an entire thing, just remaking like the most iconic films.
just keep
Blade Runner
Bruce
with
Willis,
Muppets.
to keep Bruce Willis, but replace all the other characters with Muppets.
I want like Legally Blonde with Muppets.
It would have to star Miss Piggy, you know,
Oh
Oh,
my
100%.
god.
or Janice.
Mean Girls.
Mean Girls with Muppets. Oh my gosh. Saving Private Ryan.
Mm. Tom Hanks.
Yes.
Tom Hanks. He would be such a great Muppets guest.
Oh, he'd be perfect. He'd be
Hands
perfect.
down,
Yeah.
1000%.
I was actually watching That Thing You Do recently, and that's such a great film. But yeah, he'd be perfect for that show.
And then thinking about before I leave, because the other aspect is thinking about like what Muppets brought to us, how much we still carry them with us,
Yeah.
and the role that they could play. Like we're struggling so much right now with how to help kids understand and how to help them learn, and there's such a role they could play there when you think about the guests they could have, think about the Obamas and thinking about the things they could talk about, because at the end of the day, they were. Again, we talked about Kermit kind of being that every person and just genuinely wanting to be kind and help people. They did often find a way to come together. They embraced Miss Piggy and found her.
They embraced
powerful.
Gonzo.
They embraced Gonzo. They embraced Animal.
Yeah.
And so thinking, I mean, Animal is ADHD.
I think I've kind of pinpointed the fact that, you know, it's like, even though the newer ones are enjoyable, I think the one thing that's been lacking in it is Jim Henson's sense of humor. Jim Henson is that one element that sort of, you know, it's like it doesn't feel just right. That and some of them are kind of wrong sounding Muppets. I mean, with people like Frank Oz, I mean, he kind of retired from it, so it's like different people playing the roles now. But it's just like there's that Jim Henson is that missing element, you know, with the humor. I mean, there was something you know, it's like I said, he wasn't cute with his humor. He did have like a little bit of naughtiness to it that made it funny.
I think if you watch the current ones that Jason Segel brought, that you would really enjoy those. Because there's a lot of that kind of humor. I think in the second movie, Ricky Gervais plays a sleazy talent agent with a funny name like Bad Guy, but he's like, it's pronounced Bad G. I'm not the bad guy. It's pronounced Bad G.
I heard good things about the movies. I saw a little bit of that the series the television series they had on ABC several years back, and it just didn't strike
the
me,
Modern
you know.
Family type one that we
It was kind of like Miss Piggy's. It was like set around Miss Piggy's talk show, and
yeah, but they filmed it like an Office kind of thing, right?
Yes,
where
that
they
was
were
the
talking
one.
and like talking to the camera and breaking the fourth wall.
Right.
I don't think I actually caught that one.
I caught 1 or 2 episodes, and it just didn't do anything for me. But I feel like there's a lot of stuff you couldn't do the Muppet Show the way it was back then, because who gets, you know, nobody would really get the whole variety show dance hall sort of vibe that they had in those episodes. I don't know if a modern audience would like take to that.
Well, that's I think they started setting that up when Disney put out the new Muppets with Jason Segel, because he was somebody who was a huge fan of them.
That's right. Yes.
He went and talked them out of retirement to reopen the theater and put on a Muppet Show again. And then in the second movie, there was a guy who looked exactly like Kermit who broke out of jail, and he was French, and he kidnapped Kermit and then took his place.
Yes.
And tried to run the show. So both are very funny.
Well, I mean, you look at what Sesame Street's doing right now, and they have a character who is autistic now.
They do, yeah.
I think that they're probably going to have. I don't know if they have a character who's transgendered yet, but I'm pretty sure they probably should think about that.
I think that's what was lacking in the last Muppet version they did on ABC. I don't know if you remember that, the one they did like The Office.
Was that like? Yeah, that was a sitcom. They were doing that.
That was something they lacked. I feel like they made the Muppets too mean on that one.
I know.
It didn't have that right. It didn't have that feel that the Muppet Show. And sometimes I wonder with a lot of the new stuff that's come out with the Muppets that the thing that's really lacking with it is Jim Henson himself.
Yeah,
he was that nuclei to the Muppets gene that sort of made things work and made that sort of a little bit naughty sense of humor that it was never it would teach morals, but it was never saccharine. It was always fun.
No.
It also wasn't too preachy either.
Exactly.
I mean, like it's one thing when you have a lesson to be taught, but it's another thing if you're going to be too preachy, and kids just tune out. And even regular audiences today would tune out if you're too preachy.
Well, a lot of the times it was like be a nice person, and then you'd have the character of Crazy Harry blow somebody up in the back afterwards. But it had that balance. And I feel
it wasn't about closure every time. The characters came back and they were the same where they were, and they moved through and they embraced. They didn't have to be perfect. Fonzie was going to be Fonzie, and Gomer, who's the blue one? Gonzo, and they had their quirks. They weren't mean. They were not mean. They were unique and they were different. And
that's the problem I had with the last show is they were really mean to one another, and I just was like, that's not the Muppets I remembered. I don't remember them being snarky or cruel or making fun of one another or making fun of certain stereotypes. And it's just like, I mean that's what kind of put me off about the last one. Well, I think it's definitely one of those things. I don't know if they can do it. Well, I mean, television and movies are changing anyways, so.
The new one, the Muppets that's on Disney Plus now is it's different. It's definitely geared more towards kids, which kind of surprised me at this point after the movies. But it's still not quite like Sesame Street level. It's in between like what you and I would enjoy and what kids would enjoy. So it's kind of falling flat for me.
Right. And I think that's half the problem is there was an interview with Frank Oz maybe around the time that last Muppets series came out where he just said
Muppets Tonight.
Yeah, he just felt like it was too cute. It was too cute, and they were playing it too safe. Muppets. The Muppets would be the ones that's kind of saying "F you" to Disney. But I
didn't like that Muppets Tonight. That was the one that had the weird like blue monster character as like a co-host.
I think so. Yeah. Something. There was that one, and then I think that one in the 90s, and then there was the other one like in 2016 where it was set up like The Office, and it was just. I think they're trying to do something modern, but it still doesn't work.
Oh, hold on, guys. We got a call coming in. The hell?
Well, nobody asked you, Brett.
Oh no, he went green on you, Kermit. Come on now.
Yeah, keep your fucking opinion to yourself, Brett. I'm with the frog here.
Yeah, Brett. Yeah, you're gonna get an ass beaten.
Yeah. You're going to get a smackdown.
Oh, I'm in trouble.
I heard that all the way down in the green room. Get it? Green room.
You still got it, Kermit. You still got it. You green son of a bitch.
When we need him. Bonnie, we need you.
Oh, I can't bear him.
Oh, no.
Oh, I went there, Frog. I went there.
Bad. Just bad.
Bad dog. Bad dog.
Sit.
All in good fun.
Yeah. Well, you and I will enjoy this podcast.
Oh gosh, I didn't realize Kermit could be such a bastard. Or Rolf. They have a mean streak.
Yeah, Rolf smokes cigars. He's like he's got a sailor's mouth.
Actually, did you ever see the Jimmy Dean show clips with him on them? That was like the first appearance of Ralph. Look him up on YouTube if you haven't.
I thought I saw him on something else, and I was thinking it was on Saturday Night Live. Was it Jimmy Dean?
It might have been. Because I guess they also did commercials in the 60s where my dad actually remembers the one with the LaTroy Dragon. Somebody call my name. Oh, it's a real dragon. What you need is LaTroy. And he'd just be knocking everything over in the store. And I think that was like a precursor to like the Big Bird sort of Muppets.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah. Who would be your ideal Muppet guest?
Oh boy.
Now I'm obsessed with this.
It doesn't have to be an actor. It could be a band. It could be a scientist. It could,
Oh my gosh.
I mean, they had Lou Rawls on it, who wasn't necessarily an actor. He was just a very good singer.
Bill Nye would be hysterical.
Oh God, yeah, he'd be perfect.
Bill Nye would be fantastic.
Yes, he would.
Selfishly, Idris Elba.
Yes.
I can see him doing
because
too.
I would love to see him do like, again, I can completely see Kermit like dressed up, just all of them, just trying to be Idris.
Yeah.
Trying to have that elegance, and he did The Office so well. He plays straight comedy so well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who else.
Stephen Fry.
Oh, I love Stephen Fry.
Yeah. I think he would be one of those John Cleese sort of things of him acting like, acting very, I don't know what you mean, Kermit. You must explain this to me. I mean, just this whole thing you're talking about of, just doing that very Stephen Fry, Well, Stephen.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yes.
He would be perfect on that.
Yep.
That would be awesome. Jason Statham too, I would say.
I would love to see Beyonce. I think she'd have a blast with it. And I think watching Miss Piggy try to outperform Beyonce would be hysterical.
It would be like the Raquel Welch thing all over again,
Yes.
Or Linda Carter, who was on the show.
Yep. I'm trying to think who else.
Gal Gadot.
Barack, the Obamas.
Of course.
Yes.
He'd be perfect.
Both he and Michelle would love doing something like that with them.
Yep.
Well, especially when Kermit used to do like the sit-down interviews with the guests, the Obamas would be great for that.
Yeah.
Especially if it ends like something goofy,
Mm-hmm.
Which it usually did. But
yeah, they could do a sketch of him.
They have the sense of humor to do that sort of thing. So
they would do a sketch of him in the Oval Office and like Fozzie Bear's like the Department of Defense or something funny like that.
Mm-hmm.
That would be hilarious.
That would be outstanding.
Or going against or debating Sam the Eagle.
Oh my gosh. You say Gal Gadot. Gal Gadot would be fantastic. Yeah. I would actually, you're gonna laugh at me, I would actually love to see like Cardi B.
Not bad. That would be a good one. No, I
think she would actually have a blast with it.
I think she would do it too. It'd be great.
Oh. I'm sure that parents would be up in arms about it. But
that's the thing. Parents are going to be that way. I think that the barriers have certainly been broken to a certain extent nowadays, where you could have those people playing characters. I mean, like I don't think you'd have Sharon Stone on the Muppet Show like during the time when Basic Instinct came out, but nowadays I think people are a little bit more.
Oh, Miss Piggy in a parody of Basic Instinct might be funny.
Oh my gosh.
Piggy, don't do that again.
We're like going into Family Guy territory here.
I know. Sorry.
This is like Adult Swim Muppet Show.
But I mean, the Muppets wasn't a kids show. If you think back to it, it was a show. It's like I can remember my parents laughing at it, and most of the stuff, most of the cartoons I watched, they usually cringe because they were so awful. But I enjoyed them. But the Muppets was one of those things where the whole family enjoyed because the humor was just it wasn't intellectual. It was just goofy. It was just fun, goofy humor with some innuendos, some double entendres, but in a sort of Groucho Marx way where it wasn't.
Yep.
It wasn't dumbed down.
No,
you didn't feel like they were talking to you like a child.
Exactly, and I think that's what the problem with like the new Muppets is. They're treating it too much like a children's show.
Yeah, I think that's the big problem.
But
So
I
I'm trying
mean,
to think if I have any other Muppet experiences. I never, sadly got to meet Jim Henson in my life. I
Oh.
did meet Brian Henson.
oh,
But in my head, all I'm thinking is there are people, including myself, I'm not bragging here, who do Kermit the Frog's voice more like Jim Henson than anybody has done it since. And that's
absolutely.
always bothered me. Nobody has sounded like Kermit as much as Jim Henson. I don't know why. It seems to me it's kind of an easy voice to do if you can do that timbre and that tone.
Yeah.
Even his son was like way off, in my opinion.
Yeah. I don't know if he ever did Kermit the Frog. I think it almost
I
seemed
thought
like
he was the first person that
they ended up
kind
getting
of filled in for him.
No, actually, it ended up being Steve Whitmire ended up being the guy who filled in for him, and he just sort of did it to the point where Disney fired him, and he just it never sounded just right.
Right.
It never.
I thought there was somebody. Whoa, hold on. I just dropped my something I needed to type in, and I just dropped the keyboard.
Oh,
Hang on a second.
careful.
All right. I was thinking that Brian only did it for like whatever the first project was that came out after Henson died. And I didn't think Disney owned it back then.
I don't think I don't know if he did or didn't. I know.
Let me look right now. Go ahead, I'm listening.
Because I know he did a few of the other characters. I'm not sure who. I think he might have done Scooter for a little while, but I almost kind of wonder if he stayed away from it because just like having that weight, just like you can't really, how can you live up to that? I mean, I know it's like with Mel Blanc's son Noel Blanc sort of trying to do the voices of like Bugs Bunny and all of them. I mean, I know he tried and he ended up not getting the job, but it's like how do you?
Okay, so it says here that Matt Vogel is the voice of him on the Muppets.
Currently, yes.
Steve Whitmire did Sesame Street after he passed away.
Yep.
Matt Danner and Frank Welker were the voice of him on Muppet Babies. That's
right.
Thing.
And yes,
and
you're right.
There's like three others. One for Studio DC, one for Robot Chicken, one for Sesame Street, whatever that is.
This is like German Kermit. Hello, this is Kermit the Frog here.
Und? Yeah. That's
brought to you by the number 9. That was another guest on the Muppets, Peter Sellers.
Yes, Peter Sellers. I believe they had Dom DeLuise.
Yep, he was good. Marty Feldman.
Oh God, that was a great one.
Speaking of film, your special guest is going to go. It's movie night at my house.
Oh yes.
So I'm going to bow out. We may be changing movies now. Actually, we're thinking about watching Beverly Hills Cop tonight.
Oh, that's a good film.
That's a good film.
So I feel like I should pre-watch it.
Muppet Caper, Beverly Hills Cop. Would it be better if Beverly Hills Cop had Muppets in it?
It could. Did speaking of which, did Eddie Murphy ever do the Muppet Show?
I don't think he ever did a Muppet Show.
Back in the 80s, he was too R-rated.
He was too R-rated.
Yeah, he was like in the midst of doing like that.
He was doing Raw.
Yeah, he was doing Raw. He had all that stand-up comedy. He was doing Beverly Hills Cop. He did Beverly Hills Cop too. He was.
And we really separated. We really like so definitively separated those things.
Yeah, he wouldn't have done that back then. Now he would have. Now he would, but not back then. No, but that's a great movie.
It is a good movie.
Die Hard with Muppets. I can just imagine Die Hard with Muppets. That would be hilarious. If they could replace
that could be an entire thing, just remaking like the most iconic films.
Just keep
Blade Runner with Muppets.
To keep Bruce Willis, but replace all the other characters with Muppets.
I want like Legally Blonde with Muppets.
It would have to star Miss Piggy,
Oh my God.
Or Janice.
Mean Girls.
Mean Girls with Muppets. Oh my gosh. Saving Private Ryan.
Oh. Tom Hanks.
Yes.
Tom Hanks. He would be such a great Muppets guest.
Oh, he'd be perfect.
Hands down, 1,000%.
Wow.
He was always kind of thinking.
It's too bad that it's too bad that Jim Henson couldn't have made it a little bit longer just to see how far everything has come. Imagine what he
know.
could do now.
I think he'd really like revel in like the new technology that's available. I mean, he'd probably be doing stuff with CGI, but in a way that was like still sort of creative with what he would do.
Yeah, and he would hate Jeff Dunham.
Probably. I ended up watching. There was an interview with Brian Henson, and they talked about the Happy Time Murders movie he did, and they just talked about.
I haven't seen that.
I haven't either, but it's like the interviewer was just saying, like the tone of the movie. What would your father say about it? And he goes, "My dad was the type of person. It's like, just don't be afraid of trying something, even if it doesn't end up working out. Just give it a try, and just
Right.
And I mean, the trailer made me laugh when I saw it in the theaters. So.
Me too. I just never got around to watching it.
No, me neither.
Now I have to go. Now I have to go watch all these and come back to this.
She's gonna go binge the
We're
movies.
sorry.
No. Don't be sorry.
She's like, okay, kids, change of plans.
I know. This is what we're gonna do for the rest of the. Listen, we're in COVID, but my kids are.
This is what happens when you're on the mental suppository.
Any of my kids, that's what will happen. They'll be, can we just watch this all the time? I'm like, no, we can't just watch this all the time.
Yeah.
All right.
I think my wife tells me that.
Hey, Ramona,
so
it's great
lovely to see both of
again.
you.
Yeah, it's good to see you again.
Be well. I'll talk to you again soon.
Yes.
Absolutely. See
All
you
right.
next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I think we've almost talked about everything to do with the Muppets. I mean, it's just like the whole thing of like losing Jim Henson, everything that's gone beyond, his time with the Muppets. I mean, just, reading about him, just the deal, and Disney really kind of raked him over the coals, and he was somebody who was like willing to work with them when he was trying to, he got to the point where he actually referred to it as the goddamn Disney deal. And he was somebody who didn't swear a lot, but when he did, it just took everybody off guard. So I guess for a while, the deal was off after he passed. The deal ended, and then maybe like 2004 or sometime around then, Disney ended up making a deal with to get the Muppets. But they also wanted like Sesame Street, and I think the Creature Workshop. And he said, no, that's off. That's out of bounds. You can't have that. So I think Labyrinth and Dark Crystal don't belong to Disney. But I think like the Muppets are the only ones that do. But I'm not sure that.
I don't think they do either. We didn't even mention two other movies: Muppet Treasure Island and Muppet Christmas Carol.
Oh, that was the first one, Muppet Christmas Carol. I remember the first one that came out after Jim Henson passed, and I think it was the one, the guy who did the voice of Gonzo. I don't know if he directed it at the time along with Brian, or they worked together, and that was like Brian Henson's first time directing a Muppet movie, and it was kind of like baptism by fire.
Let me see here about
but
that.
But it also had Michael Caine on it as Ebenezer Scrooge.
Yes, it was directed by Brian Henson.
And I think Michael Caine was probably one of the best up there, like with Alistair Sims as one of the best Ebenezer Scrooges or Alistair Sims, Patrick Stewart, just really playing the character, and doing it with
we also
Muppets.
forgot the Muppets Wizard of Oz.
Oh, I forgot about that. I don't know if I saw that one.
I didn't see it. It was 2005, PG. Ashanti was Dorothy, which is interesting if you think about that. That was like the new way to do it, and it had Jeffrey Tambor.
Of course. Was this around the time he was doing Arrested Development, or was this after?
2005. Yeah.
Oh, it'd been I don't remember.
Yeah, he would have been a bit there. Quentin Tarantino.
What did he play?
I don't remember this movie at all. Quentin Tarantino was Kermit's director.
Of course he was.
Queen Latifah. I didn't even know she was in there. Queen Latifah and David Alan Grier were Uncle Henry and Auntie Em. Kermit was the Scarecrow. Gonzo was the Tin Man.
Okay.
Pepe the Prawn was Toto. Now I feel like I need to watch this.
Was Missy
Fozzie
Piggy
was the Cowardly Lion.
Was Miss Piggy the Wicked Witch?
She was. She was both witches.
Oh,
She was the evil one and the nice one. Interesting. Yeah.
watch it, frog.
That's pretty much the.
Was
the
that still
main
around
one.
the time Frank Oz was still doing the voices? Had he retired about then?
Frank Oz did not do. Eric Jacobson did
Okay, all
Frank
right.
Oz's voice on this one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and it's funny when I brought that up. One of the things that popped up on the side was the picture of Jimmy Dean and Rolf for some reason.
Those ones, if you ever watch them on YouTube, those ones are funny because it's like there's a whole thing of him saving, him saying you got to save Lassie, and it's like Rolf's like, all right, and he, he's doing, you got to swim the lake, you got to go after. He goes, I'm doing the dog paddle, I'm doing the backstroke, I'm like Esther Williams here. And he goes, and then over the bridge, he goes, wait a minute, you made me swim through a crummy river, and there's a bridge over there. And it's just like these like really silly. But, he was working with all these, great old writers, and so he was able to work with those people at the time.
Mm-hmm. I think for your watch list, you need to really watch the Muppets and then the Muppets Most Wanted. You need to
I'll watch
them
those
back to back.
I know
and
Sid liked
get caught
those.
up.
She really enjoyed
Yeah.
those movies, so I'll have to watch those, just, to give those a chance, because I didn't get a chance to see them when they were out.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah.
I think we may have covered. Oh, you know what? John Denver and the Muppets. We
Yes.
didn't mention that television special.
Not only that, the Christmas album.
Yes, which is still huge.
Yep.
Every year, still sells.
It still sells at Newbury
Um,
Comics, so.
Yep. Muppet Family Christmas.
Yep. Oh, that was the last one he
Um,
did. I remember that when it came out in '87, because it was like the last scene with Jim Henson in the kitchen with the dog saying, "Oh, I like seeing them happy." Well, somebody.
That's right.
That was a
And it
great
was all- it was-
special.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that one. And then let's see, we have. Okay, we talked about the Christmas Carol. We talked about Treasure Island with Tim Curry. Oh, the Muppet Show, Sex and Violence.
Yep, that was the one that predated the original Muppet Show. That I think they had tried to sell it to ABC, and it played for that one episode, but they never picked it up. So that's why he ended up going to England, and they ended up getting the deal with Lord Grade. But yeah, that was.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember if Kermit wasn't the host of Sex and Violence. I think he was like more of incidental.
It was Sam the Eagle.
Oh, really? I don't want to see any of this sex and violence on the screen.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, presenting the end of sex and violence on television. It says.
The one I always loved with Sam the Eagle was him telling the story of the grasshopper and the ant, because it ends up ending with him goes, and the grasshopper drove his convertible to Florida, and the ant got stepped on. And so you see the grasshopper driving his convertible to Florida, and the ant gets stepped on. Wait a minute, somebody changed the script on me.
Oh, it actually, I was mistaken. It says that Nigel, the conductor on the Muppet Show, was the host
Oh,
of
okay,
Sex
okay.
and Violence, and that it used a ton of jokes that were similar to what was used in the Airplane film, but it was before Airplane came out, 1975. So I was really little then. So I'm gonna have to look that one up. I want to watch that one.
I think it's probably on YouTube. So
Yeah.
look that one up with along with Jim Henson's pitch for the Muppets, because I think they have bits and pieces
Okay.
of that one, because it's really hysterical, because he's like really trying to like sell it, because it was something he just really worked hard to get on the screen, because he wanted to move past like the children's television workshop and Sesame Street and doing something. Just he wanted to show that Muppets weren't just like kids stuff; they actually could work for an adult an adult audience. When I'm saying adult program, I don't mean like Fritz the Cat, which now we have with Happy Time Murders, but he wanted to do something that adults would laugh at and not be embarrassed like watching a kids show.
It says that the Sex and Violence was one of two pilots that Jim Henson produced at the same time.
He
for
did the Valentine's
ABC.
one.
The Valentine's one aired in 74,
Yeah.
and the other one aired in 75. But then they ended up going with, in 76, The Muppet
Yep.
Show.
And the rest is history
And the rest is history.
on this day. Thank you for listening to the Mental Suppository. On behalf of Ramona, Kevin, Andrew, and myself, this is Brett Herholtz saying,
I knew I'd disturb you.
The Mental Suppository has been produced by Brett Herholtz and Jamie Billings and distributed by M the Media Project. Theme music generously donated by Mr. B, the Gentleman Rhymer. Visit his webpage at gentlemanrhymer.com. We would love to hear from our fans. Email us at mentalsuppository@gmail.com.